Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, and I'm your host, Jon June. And of course, got my guy,
yes, sir,
Greg Pittman. Greg, what's good on this Thursday evening, man?
Thursday evening, about to watch this Thursday night game. Actually, also watching the Yankee game at the same time. You know, I'm a huge Yankee fan, all sports. Greg here, so I'm loving the Yankees making this playoff push. I'm excited for them, and yeah, I'm excited for the number one versus the number two pick tonight. So it definitely should be nice. You know, they played in college. Joe Burrow got the best of him. I think he's probably gonna get the best of him tonight again.
The all sports, Greg. I like that one, man. I like that. Definitely, that one is sticking. Welcome into episode 195. 5 episodes away from the big 200. Obviously, it is Thursday here. Thursday Night Football will have been played, but we already broke that game down. Just go back and listen. Maybe we were right. Maybe Joe Mixon did put up a 30-burger. Who knows? But definitely go check it out. But here we are covering our top 10, or not top 10 rather, but 9 of the 1 p.m. games. We'll break down, obviously, the remaining games tomorrow. Just want to get this announcement out of the way here. Next week, we will only be on podcast platforms. There will not be any YouTube episodes for Thursday Night Football or the game previews. Those will only be released in podcast platform. So if you really want to get those, if you really want those breakdowns, just make sure you grab them via the podcast platform. Again, apologize for any inconvenience there. Just some things coming up that we will not be able to provide that in YouTube form next week. So, but we carry on. The show must go on. And so with that being said, Greg, let's jump into these 1 p.m. games, starting with the 1-2 Washington football team traveling to Atlanta to take on the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. Washington football team here is 1.5 point favorites. The total here is 48.5 points. In terms of injuries, Russell Gage was a DNP. He's most likely out of this game. Eric Harris, safety for Atlanta, he's questionable. AJ Terrell, he was a full participant in practice with a concussion. So, seems like he's trending in a positive direction there. For the Washington football team, Curtis Samuel has returned to practice. He's been practicing in pads. So if you are someone who, again, I mentioned on the show a couple weeks ago, if you have an IR spot, pick him up. But it seems like he's trending towards, if not being active this week, then definitely I would assume next week here with his groin injury. And there's been nothing by the way of a second wide receiver in this Washington offense, and I think they could sorely need it opposite Terry McLaurin. In terms of the game here, I'm going to take the over here. I'm going to take Washington to cover, Washington to win the game. For Atlanta, Mike Davis, he's a floor play, RB2. Cordell Patterson is that RB3 wide receiver 3 flex option with obviously more upside for, he definitely has upside for more here. Calvin Ridley gets a slight downgrade, just like the slightest for me this week. But obviously you're still going to play him. You know what he can do. I see Greg shaking his head.
That's crazy.
Oh man,
Calvin Ridley. Oh, yo, that's a smash spot for my man Calvin Ridley. Yo.
Oh, okay. That might be hinting towards something later in the week there. But Kyle Pitts, someone I'm going to continue to take a shot on at the tight end position. Washington, Taylor Heineke, top streaming option at the quarterback position. AG, low end RB1. Although I failed to mention at the top, these injury notes were from yesterday. Antonio Gibson was a DNP today at Thursday's practice with a shin injury. So J.D. McKissick is the next man up, in the eyes of fantasy managers. But in terms of who will be the running back, seems like that'll be rookie running back Jarrett Patterson. So if you are in leagues, if you are the Antonio Gibson manager, you're trying to protect yourself there. Jarrett Patterson's the guy that you probably want to go add. Terry McLaurin, obviously he can get it done here as a wide receiver one option. His quarterback has a great matchup here against Atlanta, so I like Logan Thomas here as well. Greg, what say you on this matchup, man?
I'm with you. I'm gonna take the over, taking Washington to cover and Washington to win. Taylor Heineke, stream of the week, definitely a great play this week. Since becoming a starter, he's got at least 2 passing touchdowns in week 2 and 3, getting up about 35 pass attempts a game, going against a bad Atlanta defense, giving up the 4th most passing TDs to QBs, about 2.7 a game. AG, yeah, if he can go, you're starting him up. I think solid RB2. He's got that big play upside just like he had last week. Got the 73-yard reception, so he's always got that in his bag. Terry McLaurin set up for a huge game. Definitely in a good spot against these corners. Mentioned the bad defense with Taylor Heineke, that helps Terry McLaurin for sure. He's wide receiver 1. Logan Thomas in that tight end 1 range. And for Atlanta too, yeah, I do actually like this game for Matt Ryan and the Atlanta offense. Washington has just been pretty bad this year defensively against QBs, giving up the most fantasy points to QB position. Calvin Ridley I think, is going to destroy in this matchup. He's got 11 targets last week in a prime spot matchup, just like Terry McLaurin. So they should be going head to head against each other on both sides. Quarter Patterson, and with you, great flex play. His touches and receptions have been going up each week, and I like Kyle Pitts as well with that tight end 1 value, a low end tight end 1 value. Mike Davis is a touchdown dependent RB3. I wouldn't be happy about playing him, but I think they'll get some red zone opportunities.
Yeah, definitely, man. Moving on to this next matchup, the 0-3 Detroit Lions traveling to Chicago to take on the 1-2 Chicago Bears. This is a 42-point total here. There is rain expected in this game. In terms of the injuries, it seems like Khalil Mack, he's questionable with the foot. Darnell Mooney, he's questionable as well with a groin. Andy Dalton, he practiced 2 days in a limited capacity with that knee injury. So with that knee bruise. So curious to see what happens there with the quarterback position. Justin Fields, he's been on the injury report with the hand, but it seems like he'll be ready to go on Sunday if need be. But for the Detroit side, DeAndre Swift, he's questionable with the groin. There were some comments that came from Dan Campbell that seems like the groin may not be a factor. They have a few other guys questionable here, but Greg, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm taking the over. I'm gonna take the Detroit Lions to cover, and I'm gonna take them to win. On Chicago side, I'm not very certain who's going to be started at QB. I'm not a fan of anyone on this offense, honestly, except David Montgomery. Until Matt Nagy finds his coaching skills back and play calling skills back to help this offense, I'm mostly on David Montgomery as a RB2 play. I can't even trust Allen Robinson right now. He's got not one game over 40 receiving yards this year. It's pretty bad for a person you want to start every week. I thought it was a safe, low-end wide receiver 1. So I'm going to stay away from that. On Detroit side, though, definitely a fan of Jared Goff in this matchup. It's my quarterback stream of the week. He's got that high in QB2 value. DeAndre Swift, and more Swift. I think this is a tag that he's going to have every week, the groin, that to limit him his work during the week, but he'll be fine. He's getting 18 touches a game. Dan Campbell wants him to get even more, so you definitely RB1 season will continue. Hawkinson, I think, bounces back, could give you that tight end 1 value, top 5, and really, I'm not one of these complimentary receivers will show out. It's just a matter of who's that going to be. Not gonna willing to start any of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Cephas game, a Khalif Raymond game. You don't really know.
Yeah, man, I'm going to go with the over here. I'm going to take Detroit to cover. Going to take Detroit to win this game. Detroit's been playing some solid football, man, over 3 weeks.
Playing hard.
They're playing real hard. Like they're trying to bite some kneecaps off. So I'm getting behind it here with what Dan Campbell is building in Detroit. But we started the quarterback position, and for Chicago, I'm curious to see who's going to start.
No clue.
If it's Fields, I'm not going to hold last week against him. Matt Nagy, though, stop. Just stop. Whatever you're doing. I feel like we've done this too many times.
Start doing something. I don't know.
Right?
Stop or
like,
start.
Stop or start, whichever one
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Just do the opposite and like put the offense out there for the kid who you drafted.
Yep.
With the 10th overall pick, or was it 11th? I don't even remember at this point anymore. But all I know is this kid is talented, and we should be able to see that talent like on Sundays. There's no reason for that. So David Montgomery, low end RB1, regardless of who the quarterback is. Allen Robinson, like you said, Greg, he's like under 40 receiving yards. He's been so bad.
So bad.
3 weeks. I think at this point, he's been a starter based on name value.
Yep.
And draft capital alone. But I'm not opposed.
3 weeks is enough.
3 weeks is enough, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Greg, you and I, we come from a world where like we analyze data. Hey, if 3 data points, that's enough to say there's a trend.
Yeah.
Right. So 3 weeks, there's a trend here. I'm not really like if I have better options, I will sit Allen Robinson. For Detroit, let's get Swifty, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yo, he's a top 6 option for me at the position this week. Jamal Williams, even has some flex appeal in this one. TJ Hawkinson had a down week last week, but he should continue to see that volume. And Greg, he's your stream of the week, Jared Goff. The matchup is decent here. The weapon, we love his weapons every week, so we gotta love the quarterback, right? That only makes sense. So, yeah, I'm down, man. Let's do it. Moving on to the next matchup, the 2-1 Tennessee Titans traveling to MetLife Stadium to take on the 0-3 New York Jets. This is a 45.5 point total. The Tennessee Titans are 7.5 point favorites. In terms of the game here, there's rain expected in this game. In terms of injuries, it just does not get any better for the Jets. Marcus May, their star safety, he'll be out 3 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury. Jeff Smith, he's questionable with a concussion. Elijah Moore, also questionable with a concussion. So neither one of those guys practiced yesterday. Jamison Crowder, he was a limited participant with a groin, so it seems like he might be trending in the right direction. And then safety Ashton Davis looks like he could be returning from the IR here. So a bunch of guys questionable for Tennessee, but the guys that really matter, Julio, A.J. Brown, they've both missed practice the last 2 days. So it's trending as if they could be out. I mean, we know A.J. Brown always does this thing with his knee, but this is a completely different injury with the hamstring here. So there's a real possibility that these two guys will be out on Sunday. So from a fantasy perspective, I don't know there's much in this game that I want to. Oh, actually, let me start with the game. I'm taking the under, taking the Titans to cover, taking the Titans to win. But in terms of the fantasy matchups here, on the Tennessee side, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry. This Jets defense has been pretty good, but at the end of the day, like Derrick Henry's going to see the ball like 35 times. So
word, bro. Word.
Like there's no wide receivers.
Facts, yo. He's 35
he's at least 30 touches in this game for Derrick Henry. We should see Chester Rogers, I think, will have some sort of role here for the Tennessee Titans. I think Ryan Tannehill is okay because his team's going to be up by 7.5, and I think the team will be skiing so much on Derrick Henry that he'll have to make some plays. Plus, we know he makes plays with his legs as well. And he's a good enough quarterback where I think he can make some things happen, although the Jets have not been great against the quarterback. So this is strictly like a 2-quarterback league type thing. In 1-quarterback leagues, I'm not really interested in Ryan Tannehill. For the Jets side, this looks like a good matchup on paper, but the Jets have not been playing good football over the last 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks. So, it's really hard to try to attach yourself to this offense. The only person I'm probably willing to attach myself to is Corey Davis. It's a revenge game. Has seen double-digit targets. There is no other receiver. Elijah Moore might miss this game. Jamison Crowder very well could miss this game as well. So you could be, and Tyler Kroft, who is one of the top tight end options for Zach Wilson, will most likely be out as well. So Corey Davis is a safe option, and then Michael Carter, you could take the upside there. Had some plays that could have gone one or two ways, but I'm more so down waiting for him to really establish himself as a fine fantasy play.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Tennessee to cover and Tennessee to win. I'm pretty much with you as far as the analysis, especially on the Jet side. Corey Davis is the only name that pops up to me as a top 30 play at that receiver, getting that volume of targets. And on the Tennessee side, yeah, it's all Derrick Henry. Chester Rogers and Josh Reynolds will have to step up. I think Chester Rogers has the advantage there. Yeah, because they'll have possibly no Julio or AJ Brown, but I mean, there's the game that they're going to miss. It would definitely be this one.
Definitely. All right, moving on to this next matchup here. We've got the 2-1 Cleveland Browns traveling to Minnesota to take on the 1-2 Minnesota Vikings, a 51.5 point total. Vikings are 2.5 point underdogs here. Greg, in terms of injuries, Greg Newsome from Cleveland is out with a calf. For Minnesota, Dalvin Cook, limited participant with that ankle injury, so continue to monitor that. Make sure you have Alexander Madison on your roster, like Greg has told you for the last 2 years. You draft Dalvin Cook, you draft Alexander Madison. You draft Dalvin Cook, you draft Alexander Madison. In terms of the remaining injuries for Minnesota, Tyler Conklin, Greg, your stream of the week, he was questionable with a glute and elbow injury. Did not practice yesterday on Wednesday, so monitor his situation throughout the week. Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, the linebackers for Minnesota, were both limited participants. With all that being said, Greg, where are you at with this game?
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns to cover, and I'm going to take the Browns to win the game. On Cleveland side, you love Chubb and Hunt. They're the most effective running back duo in fantasy. It's not even close. We always say when a two running back duo comes in, we're like, oh, they could be like Chubb and Hunt, but it's really hard to do that because Chubb and Hunt are really good. Hunt's getting 13 touches a game, always highly efficient. Chubb is around 17, and he's 5.5 yards per carry. This man's a beast. So you love both of them. RB1 upside. Odell, back to that top 30 play. Got that wide receiver 2 upside. I think with a strong wide receiver 2 upside week, especially without Jarvis, should see a lot of Patrick Peterson, but I'm not afraid of that matchup. And on Minnesota side, I continue to like Kirk Cousins. I think he won't kill you here. High in QB2 for me. Have Madison ready if Dalvin Cook can't go. He played well last week, got you an RB1 performance. Expecting more of a low one RB2 here against a very much better rush defense. Cleveland's only given up about 50 rushing yards per game, so that's really good. Not afraid of starting Jefferson or Thielen. I think they have their wide receiver 2 plays for me. Jefferson has a big play upside. Kareem Hunt was able to get behind this defense week 1. But I'm definitely fading KJ Osborne. I think it's going to be only support here for 2 receivers. Conklin was able to practice today, so I think he's back to that streaming tight end play.
Yeah, I think this game is super interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I think there's a ton of upside here in this game from a fantasy perspective, especially. I mean, you took the over. Who'd you take to win this game? Sorry,
Cleveland.
Okay, yeah, I got the same thing. I'm taking the over, taking Cleveland to cover, taking Cleveland to win. For the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb, like you said, him and Hunt, they've been killing it. This Browns offense is so run-centric. These guys have been phenomenal. I think Chubb's a top 10 option this week. Kareem Hunt is a top 20 play. Baker Mayfield, higher-end QB2 in this matchup against Minnesota. Odell Beckham should continue to see 30% of the team targets here for Cleveland. Mm-hmm. So he's a high-end wide receiver 3 with that wide receiver 2 upside. Austin Hooper, I think, is the top option in Cleveland these days, but I don't really want to play one of those guys. For Minnesota, I think Justin Jefferson has some top 5 upside this week, to be honest. Kirk Cousins, a QB1 option as he's been. This Cleveland defense has not been good against the pass, and so I think Kirk Cousins can definitely make an impact there, as he has all season. So Adam Thielen, wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside as he does every week, because apparently he's going to catch 17 touchdowns this season. And if Dalvin Cook can't go, then Madison, I think, is a top 20 option, right? I think you RB2, right? So
yeah,
somewhere in that range. This Cleveland run defense has been pretty good since last year. So, he did beat up on Seattle last week. Not quite the matchup, but the volume will be there if he does start again. Moving on to this next matchup, the 0-3 Indianapolis Colts traveling to Miami. Welcome to Miami. To take on the 1-2 Miami Dolphins. This is a 2.5-point spread here. The Miami Dolphins are the favorites. 43.5-point total. In terms of the injuries and the weather, there is rain expected in this game. In terms of injuries for the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, he was a limited participant in practice, questionable with a knee injury. So definitely something to monitor. His participation in practice, though, seems like he's okay. Jack Doyle, tight end, is questionable with a back injury. TJ Carey, cornerback for Indianapolis, was added to injured reserve. And then Carson Wentz, he was a limited participant in practice with both of his sprained ankles. And then for Miami, tell me if you've heard this before. Will Fuller, questionable chest and elbow injury. In terms of this game here, I'm like, this line really surprised me. Like 2.5-point favorites. The Dolphins, like they haven't, like they've been okay.
Colts haven't won a game.
Colts have not won a game.
Yeah.
But I'm taking the under. I'm going to take the Colts to cover here. I'm going to take the Colts to win this game. JT specifically is in a really nice spot here.
Is he? Oh my gosh. Yeah. He is.
He's in a really, really, really nice spot here. So I'm hoping that he is healthy and he's ready to go, and that he could just continue to see volume, because he hasn't really been doing a whole lot of fantasy production. But this matchup is nice. If he gets that volume, then he can have a top 5 week this week. Michael Pittman, he's in a tough spot, still a top 30 option. To me, when you are a wide receiver seeing 30% of your team's targets, I equate that with matchup proof, because you're just going to get targeted so much. Even if your team is down or you're losing, you'll still see a lot of these targets. They have no choice but to throw the ball to you. So I really like Michael Pittman. For Miami, I think Myles Gaskin is a nice play this week versus Indianapolis. I think he could be a top 20 option this week. Jalen Waddle, he's also a top 20 option at the wide receiver position. Saw 13 targets last week. Has a nice spot here. Devontae Parker, I think, might be in play as well. And then Mike Gesicki has been a nice option,
yes, sir,
with Brissett at quarterback. So I'm curious again to see if that's game script dependent or quarterback dependent, but I'm going to ride the quarterback narrative because Mike Gesicki's my guy. So, Greg, what say you, brother?
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the Colts to cover and also the Colts to win. Like you said, on the Indy side, this is a green spot for both the Indy running backs. Hines has the RB2 value, and if JT gets the volume we want to see, he should have a top 5 week. Miami's rush defense is so bad. They're giving about over 170 total yards to the running back position per game. Pittman, I agree with you, the high end wide receiver 2 value. Pascal has a deeper league flex value. I think he's got the best matchup in that against this tough secondary in the slot. On Miami side, Brissett, 2 QB league option. I think he's got that rushing floor. He's got a rushing touchdown last week. Mike Gesicki, though, you got to love what he does for him. Got the 12 targets. He's tied in 1 value. And, Jalen Waddle, I agree with you in that. The 12 receptions last week. Great possession receiver. And, Myles Gaskin, definitely, I think he's a top 30 play at the running back position. More of an RB3 for me.
All right, moving on to this next game. This one has some intrigue, too. The 3-0 Carolina Panthers traveling to Dallas to take on the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys. 50.5 total here. Dallas Cowboys 4.5-point favorites. In terms of injuries, Justin Burris, safety for Carolina, he was added to the injured reserve with a groin. J.C. Horn was added to the injured reserve with a broken foot. Obviously, we mentioned earlier in the week that they traded for C.J. Henderson, so he probably comes in to fill some of that void left by Horn. Christian McCaffrey, he's obviously out with that hamstring. And then on Dallas, they're okay for the most part here. Greg, where are you at with this game?
Give me the over. Give me the Panthers to cover, but I'm gonna take Dallas to win. This is gonna be a very pretty good game, I think. Like one of the games of the weekend. On Carolina side, I do still like Sam Darnold slightly. I think he's in that QB 13 to 15 range. Dallas defense has been emerging. They're definitely a much improved defense from last year. Chuba Hubbard, high in RB2 for me. I think the volume is going to be there. Do like him in this matchup just because he's going to get a lot of touches. This is going to be DJ Moore's toughest test for sure. He will see Trey Diggs a lot. But I think DJ Moore with the ton of, like you saying, that 30% target share, that rule, if you get close to that, I think he's going to produce, has wide receiver 2 upside. Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall have the easier matchups. So one of them could have a nicer game here. I do like Marshall in that if I had to choose one, he's getting more snaps, 62% of the snaps last week, had the highest receiving yards of his season last week. So I'm leaning towards Terrace Marshall to be that complimentary receiver. And on Dallas side, Zeke, great game last week, strong RB2, going against a very good rush defense in this Carolina Panthers team. I mean, they play some weak teams, but they're still putting up great numbers as far as yardage to the running back position. Pollard is an RB3 play for me. And yeah, as far as the receivers, I like both of them, Lamb and Cooper. Of course, Lamb has that higher upside. I think, they weren't really needed last week in that game because they were dominating on the rush game. So I wouldn't be too worried about what they did last week. And Dalton Schultz, yeah, he's back to being a great streaming option. He's on a 16-game pace for 80 targets. Got 89 last year on 9.8 yards per reception. That's up this year to 10.2 yards per reception. So I'm taking him any day if I'm desperate at tight end.
Yeah, I agree with you from the game perspective. Taking the over, taking Carolina to cover, taking Dallas to win here. This is going to be a really good game. Probably one of the ones that I'll keep my eye close on Sunday with Red Zone. But on the Carolina side, DJ Moore, I've been preaching it all season. The return of DJ Moore, wide receiver 1 season, high-end wide receiver 1 for me this week. I actually think that this is a Robbie Anderson game here.
Okay.
I think he's a top 24 play this week. And the reason I say that is it's based on game script. Carolina has not trailed at any point in any of their 3 games this season. Wow. Robbie Anderson's been, he's been utilized as the deep threat, going back to that role that he had back with the New York Jets. And so I think in a game here where Carolina is going to end up in some negative game script, you have Trayvon Diggs, who's going to be probably on, sticking to DJ Moore. I think Robbie Anderson will have some opportunities to get loose behind this defense. So I think he can really, in a game with a high total, he could really come in as a top 24 play. Sam Darnold, again, the QB1 option for me this week. And then Tommy Tremble, my stream of the week
yes, sir.
at the tight end position.
Yes, sir.
The matchup is good against Dallas, so I'm definitely intrigued. And then Carolina, they've been good, defensively. So on the Dallas side, granted they haven't really been tested, but
right.
they've been good. They've been playing well defensively. But I'm going to play all the main pieces on the Dallas side. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. I think Dalton Schultz is totally in play. As him and Pollard, they're in play, but they're not must plays, if that makes sense. I mean, Schultz probably will be more leaned on because of the fact that he's a tight end.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to see what happens with this Dallas rush offense versus this Carolina run defense. Because, like you mentioned, Carolina's run defense has been pretty good. They haven't really necessarily played like a great team, but they're 9th in Football Outsiders adjusted line yards metrics of yards allowed on defense, while Dallas is 1st in adjusted line yards on offense. So you got the immovable object meets the what is it? I forget how it goes. Immovable object meets the unstoppable force. Boom, there we go. Got it.
Yes, sir.
But I'm curious to see how Zeke Elliott fares against this Carolina run defense, but you're not going to sit him. He's always going to be in line for these touchdown opportunities, but this game is going to be a good one for sure.
Yeah, facts.
Moving on to this next matchup, man, we got the 0-3 New York Giants. Man, yo, what's going on with these New York teams, man?
They don't know how to win, man. They just don't know how to.
Yo, somebody was telling me at work that they should just combine the rosters. Just try to take the best pieces from both rosters. I don't know, man.
That's still 8-team, 7-9 team to me, probably 8 whatever.
I think you're being generous. 8-9, yeah, like 6-11.
Yeah,
whatever, man. But
still don't have a quarterback.
Hey, at least our guy's playing his third NFL game.
True.
Yours is in his third NFL season. So, but neither here nor there. There's a different podcast for that. Now we have Liftoff New York Jets podcast. If you're a Jets fan, I'm not going to plug a Giants one here. We don't have one to plug. But the New York Giants 0-3, traveling to New Orleans to take on the 2-1 New Orleans Saints. 43.5 point total. Saints are 7.5 point favorites. In terms of the injuries, Teron Armstead, left tackle for the Saints, doubtful. Eric McCoy, center for the Saints, questionable. On the Giants, Blake Martinez was put on IR after Cordero Patterson caused him to tear his ACL. Sorry, that was a joke. Never mean to be funny about these things, but he juked the crap out of Blake Martinez, and Blake Martinez then tore his ACL. Or did he look like he got juked out because he tore his ACL? I don't know. I guess we'll never really know. But Blake Martinez, wish you all of the best in your recovery.
Yeah, it's a huge hit, definitely.
Definitely hit to this Giants defense. On the offensive side, though, they have some injuries. Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, both dealing with hamstring injuries, and both are out. In terms of this game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Giants to cover.
Okay.
But I'm going to take the Saints to win. I think Kamara is going to have himself a day. But that's about it. That's really all I want on that side.
That's exactly what I had. Oh, man.
For the Giants, Saquon, RB1 again. The Saints defense is good, but I think the volume and the receptions, especially with Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton out, I think Saquon's going to soak up some of these receptions. I might be interested in Kadarius Toney, man. I'm just saying.
Is this the week that we use our first round pick, actually? Is this the week?
I mean, with all these injuries, there's no options available. He ran the second most routes, I think, on the team last week. So he played a large percent of the snaps. He's a first round pick, so he's got that pedigree.
He was just running around last week.
Yeah, he played. No, sorry, that's what it was. He played most of his snaps from the slot last week.
Got it.
So that's the Sterling Shepard position where Daniel Jones, a lot of those targets have been going to. Obviously, Sterling Shepard is a vet. He gets open, does all these things. Kadarius Toney can be a yak machine, though. So if you play in PPR leagues, 6 catches is 6 points, and if you make something happen after, but Colin Johnson also played well last week in the absence of these receivers. So he's a guy that has flashed as well back in Jacksonville last year as a rookie. I think he can make some impact potentially here for the Giants with these receivers out. And I failed to mention even the free agent signing in Kenny Golladay, but he's been all year. So you can throw him out there, but there should be, you'd imagine that there's more upside this week with these receivers being out. You have to imagine that. The question is, what do you do with Evan Ingram?
Yes.
Where are you at, Greg?
I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Saints to cover. I'm going to take the Saints to win. I'm just not, outside of Saquon, I'm not very excited about, the Giants offense. Saquon definitely is RB1. I would like them to use Kadarius Toney. I can't guarantee that. Colin Johnson, I would like, they're going to target him. Someone's going to eat up the middle of the field. It could be Evan Ingram as well, because the Giants aren't really a big play team. So they really get their yards on possession receivers and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have Evan Ingram as a tight end too. He might eat up those receptions in the middle of the field. Kadarius Toney, I think, is a start play. Colin Johnson as well, deeper league play. And yeah, on the New Orleans side, I'm with you. It's literally, I'll have one word written down as Kamara. That's it. The other pieces might do well, but you just can't predict that. Taysom Hill had his week last week. Marcus Callaway had his week, last week as well, but it could be Deontay Harris, could be someone like this. This is just a very well, it's just a really good team from 1 to 52, 1 to 53, and they just all they just know how to win, man.
Yeah, man. Sean Payton, he doesn't care. You're active. You're going to help him win the game.
Word,
the only person that really matters is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
AK-41 makes this thing go. So let's move on to this next matchup, man. The 1-2. Wow.
Crazy.
1-2 Kansas City Chiefs.
Crazy.
Traveling to Philly. The return of Andy Reid to Philadelphia to take on the 1-2 Philadelphia Eagles. This game has a 54.5 point total. The Chiefs are 7.5 point favorites. In terms of weather, there will be some rain in this one. A few guys questionable on defense for Kansas City. Philadelphia has added 3 players on the offensive line to injured reserve in the last week. They've added 2 defensive backs to the injured reserve as well. They're banged up for sure, though. Greg, what do you have in this matchup?
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take Kansas City to cover. I'm going to take Kansas City to win. Definitely those, offensive line issues with the Eagles is going to be the game. But on the Philly side, that might be even better for Hurts because he'll be just running and running and running. He's going to have possibly a lot of rushing yards in this one. He's already a safe QB1 for me. Miles Sanders, I think, has a strong RB2 value. Devontae Smith is in a great matchup against this Chiefs secondary. I'm expecting a bounce back here. I think he gets you a top 30 week as a solid wide receiver 3. Dallas Goedert and Ertz is just really tough. They're just eating each other's value up. One of them could be a touchdown dependent tight end one. It's really hard to predict that. So, I mean, if you can find a better matchup, maybe you can. But one of them, you just really is like you're tossing them out there and just wishing that they score tight end. On Kansas City side, Patty, you already know, top 5 play. Clyde, great week last week, 5.9 yards per carry, highly efficient. He's a strong high-end RB2 play for me against this Philly defense who, Zeke just cut him up last week. So, he's going to get his opportunities. And Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, both top 5 players at their position. And that, that's what they got to do. They're going to bounce back this week.
Yeah, man, I like the over here. I like Kansas City to cover, Kansas City to win. Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill. I say this every week. I could just copy and paste this.
Yes, sir.
Top options at their positions. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like you said, great spot here. Zeke ran all over this Philly defense. They've been run on, so I think that they're going to be in a great spot here for this is a great spot here for Clyde. Hey, 2 good games in a row for Clyde. You might be able to sell. Just saying.
True. That's true.
Like, hey, this next game is coming. Like, right? So, Jalen Hurts, despite the performance last week, what we saw with our eyes on TV, he's a top 5 option this week.
Sir.
Don't get it
yes, sir.
Like,
he's still gonna end up. He's QB6 on the year in standard league, so he's doing what he's got to do.
Yeah, man. And Miles Sanders, I think he's a nice option this week here against Kansas City. There will be some opportunities in the run game. We saw Austin Eckler, Greg, your start of the week last week, come through here. I think it's possible Miles Sanders can be involved as well. Kenneth Gainwell also makes sense as they will be trailing a decent amount in this game. Could see some targets as a running back 3 flex option. Dallas Goedert, like you were saying, him and Zach Ertz, they just cannibalize each other's value. So it's really hard to recommend one of them to play, but it's definitely something that you if you have both of them, you're probably playing them. All right, Dalton Schultz or
Dalton Schultz for sure. Well, over both of them. Over both of them. Okay.
Yeah. Devontae Smith, I like him. I like him every week. So, the target volume is going to be there. The question is whether, he's going to get a catchable ball or not. But
hopefully it doesn't slip and fall. Can't have that too.
Yeah, can't have that. You got to keep your feet rook. But I definitely will like Devontae Smith in this lineup. And, I don't think I want to. Jalen Reagor is like that DFS dart throw.
Yeah.
Type. Like, I don't know if I could go there right now. All right, let's move on to this last matchup we're breaking down today. The 1-2 Houston Texans traveling to Buffalo to take on a 2-1 Buffalo Bills. 48-point total. The Bills are 16. 16 and a half.
At least it came down a little bit. It was like 17 and a half to start the week. It's crazy.
16 and a half point favorites here. For all my mathematicians at home, that's an implied score here of 32-16, Buffalo being favored. In terms of injuries, there is rain expected in this one. Buffalo has some guys in the secondary that are questionable. For Houston, Danny Amendola, he's doubtful with a thigh injury. In terms of this game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Buffalo to cover, and I'm going to take Buffalo to win. The Josh Allen tour continues.
Yes, sir.
2 weeks long. Let's get it done here. I think Diggs gets back on track this week too. Like he's too good of a player. Josh Allen is playing better now. The offense is playing better. That he's going to get phased out in a game like this and not, be involved, not get in the end zone here. Cole Beasley, top 20 option. I saw earlier he was ranked on Fantasy Pros as a top outside of the top 36. I think that's egregious. Cole Beasley needs to be in the top 20. Zach Moss, top 24 option this week at the running back position. They've got good game scripts, 16 and a half point favorites. So I definitely think he's a play. Has taken over this backfield back from Devin Singletary. Emmanuel Sanders, I think, again, he's a top 24 option this week. And for Houston, it's very easy. Brandon Cooks. End of story.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Greg, where are you at with this one, man?
I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Houston to cover, but slightly, but I'm going to take the Bills to win. The spread is just really big, but I guess the Bills have done it before. They beat the brakes off of Miami, and they beat the brakes off Washington. So I'm going to take Buffalo to cover. Yeah, they're just a really good team. They're going to break the brakes off of Houston. Josh Allen, I'm with you. Cole Beasley, solid flex play this week in PPR leagues. He's got that toughest matchup in the slot, but I think he'll be fine. Diggs is going to bounce back. Sanders, I have Beasley ranked above him a little bit, but I think Sanders has that touchdown upside, which is nice. So if you want those points, higher play. The momentum is all with Zach Moss right now. Have more carries, more receptions than Singletary. I definitely will be benching Singletary. Moss is the play to start. And Houston, you already know, man, it's cooking time every week. The wide receiver 6.5 PPR leagues. This Brandon Cooks, man, sleeper of the year at wide receiver.
Yes, sir. Brandon Cooks, man, continuing to get it done. Man, since David Mills took over, has like a 45% target share. Remember what I said about 30% target share. So if I'm in at 30, I'm in at 45. So, yeah, man. I think that's all we got here, brother, man. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all for listening. We appreciate all the love and support. Genuinely appreciate that. And so we will catch y'all on Saturday for our Game 2 previews, Part 2, and our starts for the week, and some Get Money where we'll find out if Greg can even the stakes here or if I can extend my lead by one more game. Find out on the next episode of Fantasy Football Diagnostics. But with that being said, y'all, have a good one. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. And we're out of here. Peace.
We out.